Hi guys, I hope you are doing well, that you're safe and you're healthy. It was a rough week last week, as you all know, with our dear friend and comrade and ally and pal and Michael Brooks passing away. And so it's been a very tough week for everybody. And I just want to say from the start of the show, thank you for all of the kind notes to me. And I know you've been sending messages to everybody in the community, and want to reiterate that we just want to send all the love and support to his family and his partner and to his team too, which, you know, they've been put in a tough position where they have to figure out, you know, how they're going to structure the show. And of course, Sam Cedar is as well. So I just want to just thank you all, because I know everybody's been talking about these beautiful, beautiful notes about how he inspired their lives and how they learned about Michael. And it's been really great. Like I'm sure I'm only getting a small, teeny little piece of that, but I'm getting some of it, and I'm really taken. I mean, people who met him at our live show, people who met him on my campaign, it's pretty cool. So, with that, I'm sure you guys saw that the DNC Platform Committee has met, and I, as somebody who is a former DNC Platform Committee member and a former DNC Unity Reform Commission member, I want to talk a little bit about, what's the strategy behind this? And I think a lot of folks are very confused, like, what is the Platform Committee? How does the Platform Committee function? What's the purpose of it? Who are on these committee, who's part of these committees? And let's just start with this, because go down a rabbit hole of the DNC. The DNC is essentially an elected body. It is different than the DNC delegates, right? You have the DNC members who are elected, and then you have the DNC delegates who are also selected, I should say, and elected in a reflection of how many votes the primary member got, or the primary candidate. So the DNC Platform Committee, sort of this mix of like existing DNC members, people who are appointed by Tom Perez or Joe Biden, and then a couple from Bernie Sanders. And every convention, before the convention, and normally like nobody pays attention to this stuff, but Bernie Sanders, of course, in 2016, the Platform Committee was so captivating because Bernie had selected people like Jim Zogby and Keith Ellison to sit on this Platform Committee's drafting committee with like Neera Tanden. And it was just so spicy and incredible to watch these longtime organizers on the DNC Platform drafting committee in 2016. And I think that's where everybody got kind of like attached to this idea of the Platform Committee. And then when the platform draft was brought in 2016, when we went to the bigger Platform Committee, in which I was on with Josh Fox and Nina Turner and Ben Jealous, and Lee Saunders and Michael Leidy from the NNU, and we were all on the committee that voted on the drafting committee, on the draft. And that was absolutely crazy town. And it was chaired by corporate Democrats, Dan Malloy from Connecticut, people who are just so rooted in the centrist policies of the Democratic Party. And so, what I want to talk about with the platform is the platform to a movement, to a left movement that is grounded in principles and issues and is fighting for the candidates because they want to see the world better. They want to see poor people have a leg up. They want to see our society have a security net in place for times like COVID and pandemics and recessions. They want to see capitalism checked. They want to make sure that we have a healthcare system that is a system based in human rights that is servicing every single member of society. They want to make sure that homelessness ends. They want to make sure that seniors are supported and can retire without, suffering and being poor. They want to see the working poor no longer exist in this country. I mean, these are the issues, the types of issues, of course, that progressives care about, and people who fundamentally are in the Democratic Party because they want to see society shifting to be more equitable. Okay? That is where those issues are settled. It's like, what does the Democratic Party represent? But the platform committee is actually a committee that is, you draft a platform, you pass it, and it doesn't actually, no candidate has to stand by it. They don't have to run on it. And so the DNC establishment knows that progressives care about this. They know, hey, progressives are going to care about the platform, they're going to care about the issues, and they're going to want to fight it out over these issues. And it was so powerful to see people get up and give speeches. The last platform committee, we had activists inside and we had activists on the outside cheering. We had rallies in the platform committee. No one had ever seen anything like this. You had lobbyists brush up against longtime union activists and environmental activists fighting over fracking, fighting over Medicare for all, fighting over Social Security benefits, fighting over money and politics and marijuana and Palestine. And you really saw the debate over ideas and who the party was, the soul of the party, being debated in the 2016 platform committee. But we were warned that even with this fight, the problem would be no one could be held to it, including Hillary Clinton. So there are other committee meetings that happen, though, in the lead up to the convention. One is the Rules Committee meeting, and that's where they set the rules of the convention and really the rules of the party moving forward. Every couple of years, they have these rules committees. And that's where the real stuff happens. That's where we decide whether or not the Democratic Party should have lobbyists in it. That's where they decide whether or not they should take special interest money and lobbyist money. That's where they decide whether or not the primaries should be open or not. That's where they decide whether or not how much money they're going to fund parties. That's where they decide whether or not the budget is going to have oversight. It's in the Rules Committee meetings, and that's wonky. And they know that most activists most Democrats don't even understand how the process works, and they know it doesn't make good TV. And of course, I was in the Unity Reform Commission, and they never had cameras in there, and they barely had Wi-Fi in there, and the press didn't want to cover it. And when the press did go cover it, they didn't understand the rules. Even the DNC members didn't understand it. But that's the dangerous side. That's where if you want to actually make change, you got to do it in there. You have to actually understand how the sausage is made. But the establishment knows the platform committee is sexier, but it actually, doesn't have, they can create theatrics, the platform committee. They can fight with us in the platform committee. They know that we're going to exercise all our energy as a movement in the platform committee. But at the end of the day, we'll be exhausted that we don't want to keep up for the next 2 years, watch the Rules Committee meetings and see how the sausage is really made and fight over who has power and control. So right now, the chair has extraordinary power in the DNC in that they have the ability to select some DNC members who just happen to sit in these extremely powerful positions. A lot of the DNC members are elected. Not all are great DNC members, but they're elected. So for the most part, if their state has a fair process, and New York does not. So, excuse me. So, you look at the Rules Committee, and it's just a bunch of selected people by the chair that he nominated, he put into the DNC, and now they get to select the rules. It's not the elected DNC members, so there really isn't true democracy in the DNC. There's an illusion of democracy, and it's all about keeping that control within the special interests that want to have control over the mechanisms of democracy, the mechanisms of power, how the contracts are allocated, what the priorities of the Democratic Party are, etc. And so they gave Bernie the ability to use all the energy of the movement on the platform committee. But last time around, it got out of control. I mean, they thought, all right, we'll do the platform committee. We'll let Bernie nominate all these activists. It can't go that wrong, except it did. Except people got super excited and videos went viral and there were huge fights, and we even started to influence some Hillary Clinton delegates too, because these were delegates, don't forget, not DNC members. And some of the Hillary people were like, what? Why are we being told against, protecting Social Security? Why is this an issue in the Democratic Party? They didn't even understand how far conservative the interests that were supporting Hillary at that time were. So this time around, I mean, it was a virtual conversation, so the activism was very limited there. The people who were put on, I mean, it was way more weighted because Biden won by a big chunk of the vote, and Bernie got out earlier, so he couldn't have as many delegates. At the end of the day, Biden had an overwhelming majority. It was a very pro-industry, pro-centrist group of people who are most likely completely disconnected from what's happening on the ground and don't care, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic in which, maybe half of Americans are going to be without health care very soon, and more than a quarter are going to be facing tremendous economic crisis. 40% of New York could have to move out of their apartments, won't be able to pay for their apartments. We're going to have a homeless crisis. We're going to have a student loan crisis. We're going to have all these crises at once. But it's okay. It's okay. The Democrats that Joe Biden put on the platform committee, we'll be fine, they think. They think that we'll be fine. Incrementalism is going to solve this. We don't need Medicare for all right now. That's what they said. And it was by such a stark number that was so out of touch with most Americans and where Medicare for All stands in popularity, that I think what happened at the end of the day with this platform committee was they thought that they were going to be able to do this behind the scenes. They thought, all right, we will talk about the platform committee, give Bernie a say in it, make him think that it's going to be a progressive platform. But at the end of the day, what they did was they exposed themselves name by name by name as who is completely out of touch with the crisis of this moment. So while they were like, let's put all the attention on the platform committee, even if it's virtual, let's give Bernie that, let's throw him a bone, they actually brought the camera lights on themselves. So now the movement is already online right now. Basically, they're like highlighting the people who are in elected government, state government, lobbyists. They're looking at those lists. They're calling out those folks for not supporting Medicare for All and so many other issues that were a mess on the platform. I will tweet out the entire platform if you guys want to take a look at it. But it's a huge disappointment. It's not anything that we didn't think was going to happen. I really haven't been talking about it because I just think it's inconsequential. I think getting delegates to the convention was important because we wanted to preserve the reforms that we already had passed. And those are the types of reforms that actually did give Bernie an opportunity to become a front runner earlier this time. There was a lot more transparency in caucuses and accountability in caucuses. And they even tried to fix that by blaming us for the accountability when it was really them choosing this shady app. So they still control the chessboard. And I think the big lesson here that I want to talk about at the end of the day is, yes, it's important that we win in numbers, but we have to be super strategic. We have to be super strategic. We could have won a few things on the platform, but did we actually move the needle? And with the crisis that we're facing right now, we need to move the needle. We can't just applaud ourselves because we got like a couple of points on the board. And the places where we got those points, yeah, it's important. It changes the conversation, but we need to shift things so drastically right now and so fast that we need to act in full solidarity and we need to really think big picture. And so I've been through the platform wars, I've been through the DNC wars, but if you're going to really attack the beast of the DNC, you got to attack the rules committee. You got to expose who they are. You got to name the weapons manufacturers. You got to go through that list of names and say, oh my God, my state senator voted against Medicare for All and they were on this committee, and call them out. That's not cancel culture. That's accountability of a lawmaker and their votes. But as a unit, when we decide to run for office, in organizations, when DSA decides to endorse, we have to think so strategically, where can we make the most change in one sharp move? Do you guys play chess? Chess? Do you want to wipe out all the pawns, or do you want to just get one pawn with all of your energy? We have to use our energy super effectively, right? So that we win in one move rather than exhausting our energy and losing a few pieces and maybe gaining like a couple here and there. Do you see what I'm saying? The crisis is happening. Climate change is right now. The pandemic is right now. We're about to have tremendous amount of poverty in this country. Income inequality was already the worst it was in history since 1929. We have a housing crisis. We have a student loan crisis. We have a credit crisis. We have a poverty crisis. We have a food crisis. We have a mass incarceration crisis. We have human rights crises across this country. And the only way we're going to be able to solve that is if we have bigger change happening in chunks. If we're more strategic, we act more in solidarity, and we're not pitted against each other. And so this platform committee meeting, to me, was just another symbolic bone being thrown at us, in which they didn't even give us anything. They gave us like 2 things. They're like, oh, look it, we created a committee that makes no difference for a platform that no one has to run on, and well, we gave you a couple things on the platform. But at the end of the day, we really didn't give you anything. They think about these processes all day long. They have committees creating strategies. They've been doing it for 35 years. Strategies so that they use our energy and waste it. We have got to think about where we use our energy effectively. So if you're part of a movement on the ground and you're sitting there thinking about endorsements, what is it going to take to get your candidate to win? What kind of coalitions need to happen early? How does a candidate need to raise money so that they're taken seriously and they can have a real staff and real strategic support? What are the battles worth picking that help the movement? And are we being pitted against each other? Because this is how the establishment and corporations control mass movements. And this is how the DNC controls movements and activists. They create committees after committee after committee. You know, a lot of stuff on the Unity Reform Commission didn't get passed, and they're like, oh, we'll deal with it at the next meeting in 6 months. And then you're at the next meeting you have 6 months later, you're reviewing things, and they're like, well, you know, we didn't have a quorum. We're going to have to push it off to the next meeting. Meanwhile, the press has stopped paying attention. Activists have stopped paying attention. Actually, the committee membership is different, and nobody cares. Because the time has lapsed. The energy has lapsed. We're exhausted. We're on to our next fight. We're too impulsive. We're thinking about what's in the moment. So this is a crazy moment. We won some great seats. We won against Elliot Engel. Fantastic. Now we're going to face redistricting. We might lose a seat. Whose seat would that be? Well, traditionally, it's the person who's just elected, most recently elected. So we have to be strategic. We have to be strategic about where we run, how we support our candidates, what types of candidates we're supporting. You know, if we want to have more power in New York, well, we should be pushing for more state senators, and we've got some of that. Jabari Brisport's going to get into the Senate now as a DSA member, an activist. You know, we need to build those coalitions so that we push up against the power that's controlling the rest of the Senate, for instance. We need to elect more Congress members so that the Progressive Caucus, those who are in the Progressive Caucus that may not be flexing their muscles, now feel comfortable flexing their muscles. So there's an actual solidified unit. But where are we going to win those seats? And how are we going to win those seats? And what does it take? What is it going to take to win those seats? I'll tell you right now, it's going to take supporting these candidates early with real coalitions early. It means those endorsements need to come in early. So those candidates can use those endorsements to raise money so they can have more staff and build their name ID earlier. We have to support earlier. We need the Bernies of the world to support earlier. We need the squad to send out their endorsements earlier, because those endorsements are so valuable. They raise awareness around these great candidates, and they help them raise the money so they can compete with the establishment, which has that money early and has a more stable campaign for a longer period of time. That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. So we have a lot of work to do. And we have to do it fast, and we have to think big picture, and we can't get sucked into the drama. We just can't. There's a lot of drama out there, and a lot of it's being instigated to divide us. And so while I am happy to explain to you a lot of stuff around the Democratic Party and the DNC, I resist playing into the theatrics of the platform committee, because it should be important. And it should be more than symbolism. And every candidate should be running on the platform, even the existing one, at least the existing one. But unfortunately, it's not. And they want us to get excited about that platform committee. But if there's anything to take out of it, I would say take a look at those votes. See who you know. See who's from your part of the neck of the woods. Call them out or ask them, hey, why did you vote against Medicare for All? Could you answer that for me? Why did you vote against recognizing Palestine? Just recognizing Palestine. Why did you vote against protecting Social Security in the time of pandemic? they're there to represent us, so they should answer those questions. You know, questions are good. That's good. But let's focus our energy on what's important. Got to win more seats, and we got to root out the corruption. And we have to stay in solidarity. So much love to you all. I got to head out, but take care, everyone. Climate change is extremely important, and we are not going to win, and we are not going to be able to put in the measures needed if we don't stay in solidarity and if we don't fight strategically and smart and use our energy as a movement, as individuals, in the most strategic way, because we are so far behind that we have to have massive wins in chunks that make a huge difference, not just changing the narrative. That's important too. But when Nancy Pelosi says, the squad's only 4 votes, that's true. But look how important they are in getting the movement on board and inspiring others to run and to get involved. So we got to do both things at once. All right, take care, guys.